Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here while I sub in for Leo. We get to talk about rumors swirling around Redmond's Windows 8. When is it coming out? 2012, 2013? We'll find out. Steve Ballmer's Singular Focus, Windows, Silverlight 5, and a whole lot more.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 236, recorded November 21st, 2011, the PC Plus era. Windows Weekly is brought to you by GoToAssist Express. Being in IT and not using the right tools can be disastrous. That's why you need GoToAssist, the leader in remote support. Try it free. Visit gotoassist.com/Windows. And by Ford, featuring available Sync with My Ford Touch. Sync with My Ford Touch gets you to your destination with integrated turn-by-turn directions and directional arrows displayed on screen. Check it out in the new 2012 Ford Focus and at Ford.com/technology. And by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly, all streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show that covers everything about Windows and Microsoft with Paul Thurrott, news editor. For Windows IT Pro, man in charge of WinSuperSite.com and the author of Windows Phone Secrets. How's it going, Paul?
Pretty good.
Just pretty good.
Well, someone asks you how you're doing, and you always say, great, and it's not great, but it's okay.
Well, usually my answer is, do you really want to know? Do you really?
Yeah. Nobody really wants to know. Why bore you with this?
How are you? And you're like, good.
I'm good.
And, of course, we are joined back. Mary Jo was not here last week. Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com and blogger at ZDNet. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you.
And, of course, I'm not Leo Laporte. He's not in today, so I will cover this because, we wanted to get you an episode in for this week because normally this show is on Thursdays, but we have American Thanksgiving here, and TWiT will be closed. But since we love you guys so much, we wanted to get you an episode of Windows Weekly, so that's why it's on early this week. So let's go right to the rumors. Rumors about Redmond, about Windows 8, about timing. The question is, when exactly is it going to come out? Now, a Nokia fellow kind of suggested it come out in 2012, in June, on their tablet, just spilling all kinds of secret. But another guy is saying 2013. When is the biggest rumor has always been 2012. What's going on?
Yeah, rumors, right? No ending shortage of rumors. So I was away last week, but then I was seeing all these rumors come out around Windows 8 and the timing. And I also had kind of thought we had put that to bed too, and it was probably going to be like a fall 2012 thing. But yeah, there were a couple of rogue stories last week. I think you guys talked about the Nokia one where somebody from Nokia said Windows 8, they're going to have a Windows 8 tablet in June next year. Yep, and then yeah, Directions on Microsoft came out. Michael Cherry, who covers operating systems there, and I don't know if he was misquoted or if he actually said this, but he was saying, I don't even think they're going to have Windows 8 out on new PCs till 2013, early 2013.
Yep. I interacted with him in the wake of that, and that is, in fact, what he does believe, yeah.
Does that sound viable to you guys, that 2013 would be the way to go instead of 2012? I mean, it seems like it's been on track. The amount of blog posts that we've seen about, we're building Windows 8, and we want to tell you everything about it every step of the way. The developer edition is already out. I mean, how far away could a full implementation be, considering Windows 8 is supposed to be able to run on Windows 7 hardware already?
Mm-hmm. Well, it does already, so I guess they've achieved that. But... obviously, Windows 8 is a big project. I think one of the things Mary Jo and I had talked about on a previous show was this notion that you can look at the Windows 7 schedule and sort of guess where they plan to go with Windows 8, and I think that makes a lot of sense until you start to break it down a little bit more and you realize, this is a much bigger project. And so, I first of all, Michael Cherry is a credible analyst and so forth, and I think his opinion is very interesting here. I think Microsoft wants desperately to make 2012, and I think there are still questions around whether ARM and x86 happen at different times, and we don't know. I mean, I think this is one of the big problems I have with Microsoft right now, that you alluded to the fact that these guys are blogging and blogging and blogging, but they're not telling us the stuff that I think customers really need to know, which is when, and there are milestones coming, like this presumed beta release that might or might not happen at CES in January, and hopefully at that time they'll be more forthcoming with information, but that's not really the way they do things. So every time any milestone comes and goes, there's always less information than you're looking for. And it was true of Build. It was true of the Nokia event that they had for Windows Phone 7.5. I mean, there's so many questions around what I consider to be Microsoft's key platforms. I just don't understand why they're not more forthcoming about what they're doing.
Yeah, I guess the reason I was really skeptical in the 2013 is, this is what happened with Vista, as people may remember. They missed holiday season, and they tried to put a good face on it, saying, January is the new December. And do you remember that?
That's awesome.
But not that many people bought into that. And I really think they know, especially because of the whole tablet compete part of the equation here, that they have to have something out in time for holiday 2012. They can't keep letting, especially the iPad, get so far ahead of them. So I really do think, I know they always say it's based on quality, blah, 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 but I feel like 99% confident it's coming out in 2012.
Do you think we'll see a Windows Phone variant out faster? Like, let's say if Nokia was building a tablet and they wanted to go to, like, I don't know, a 6-inch form factor, something strange, where's the line on putting Windows Phone on something versus putting something like Windows 8 on something?
Well, Windows Phone, it has to be a phone, for one thing. So that would be one line. I mean, I suppose you could make a 6-inch phone, but that would be kind of ludicrous. So obviously they have a special relationship, but I don't see Microsoft allowing a third party to make a non-phone phone, if you will. So they're free to make a 6-inch Windows 8 tablet, of course, but then that would be based on whatever the schedule is. And again, that's the piece we don't know. So all of these little bits of information are intriguing. When someone from Nokia says June, you think, well, that's really interesting. Does that suggest that ARM versions of the tablet will be out first? Not exactly, not in and of itself, but it's it's another little piece of information. So.
Yeah, and also, whenever you hear those dates, sometimes I think they're talking RTM. Like the Nokia guy may be saying, yeah, June. They told us that's when they're going to RTM or trying to RTM. So, right. That could be what that June reference is.
Yeah, and as Michael Cherry said, typically with Microsoft OS releases, if between RTM and general availability, you're looking at 90 days. So June, July, August, September, makes sense for back to school and so forth. So
I'm kind of curious about the concept of releasing the AMD version first. I'm not AMD, sorry, the ARM version first over the x86 one. I mean, it would be a good idea theoretically because they'd get into the tablet space faster. And the other thing is, I think Microsoft had said a couple of times, just because we're running on ARM, don't expect just tablets. You'll see laptops and you'll see other form factors. I'm thinking with the lack of legacy support with ARM, do you think that's going to make that, like the idea of the ARM version coming out first actually seems to be a lot easier to believe than originally I thought?
Except for one thing, we haven't even seen the ARM version yet, right? Like that doesn't even exist in preview form yet.
It's a huge question mark.
So that makes me skeptical.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. I mean, we just don't know. There are some things happening we do know that are sort of tangentially related to this. We know that Intel at CES is going to release the latest version of their chipset. I think the Ivy Bridge is the code name. This will enable far thinner and lighter and smaller Ultrabooks, for example. So clearly that kind of chipset is something that would make sense for an Intel-based version of a tablet running Windows 8, or maybe even first running Windows 7. So, I'm still unclear what the value proposition is of this ARM thing, assuming that Intel gets its act together. We may arrive at this Windows 8 release date and discover that ARM is essentially something that allows something maybe a little thinner, maybe a little lighter, maybe a little better battery life, but with zero backwards compatibility with existing apps. And that sounds unexciting to me. So I have to think there's more to it than that. But again, when we don't have answers, this is why conspiracy theories and speculation occurs. You know, we have a lot of time to think about things because we don't have the answers.
Paul, you premised that on the idea that Intel will get its act together on the mobile space. I mean, that's a big thing. They've been trying to do this for a long time. I mean, no offense to Intel. I mean, they do some great, super heavy-duty processors, but when it comes to the mobile space and these things that just kind of...
No, I hear you. I mean, I have this prototype tablet here that has a fan that's louder than the engine of my car, so I get it. You know, they're not quite there yet. And then on the flip side, of course, Intel has these Atom-based processors, which are woefully inadequate. So, you know, neither one is necessarily particularly good for a tablet today. But I think if you look at the Ultrabooks that have come up, like the new Asus in particular, very thin design, you could sort of extrapolate that into a tablet design. It's not hard to see. And I think that when this new generation of chips comes as well, they're, again, thinner, lighter, better battery life yet again. So I think they're going to get close enough. You know, we'll see. We will see.
So there's also a rumor around that Amazon is going to be building a phone, and somehow they'll be paying Microsoft in some kind of royalties. Now, so if some people are thinking, okay, this is obviously an Android phone, Microsoft has been going after manufacturers. Is it possible that they would even be working on a Windows phone?
Yeah, I think that was what the rumor was, right? Yeah, the rumor last week I saw. That. Yeah, there was a story out. I forget who the source was on this at this point, but yeah, they said the phone that Amazon is building, if there is even such a phone, was going to be based on the Windows Phone OS.
That makes zero sense.
Yeah, it makes 0 sense.
0 cents. They have an app store for Android. You know, I mean, it doesn't. They just released a Kindle Fire tablet that's based on Android.
Well, I think the actual thing was that Amazon would have to pay Microsoft an OS royalty. So that leaves it kind of open. I don't know if the original reports said anything about Windows Phone being the actual operating system.
Well, see, that makes sense because they would release an Android phone right, they were basically licensing the technology.
Yeah, because every time any manufacturer puts out an Android phone, Microsoft has some patents. I don't think those have been disclosed exactly what they are, but they go ahead, they come after them, and they go, look, you owe us a royalty on our patent. That's when I saw them, like, it's probably Android. But a Windows Phone concept, I just don't see Amazon branching out into that, especially after what Paul said. I mean, they have their own app store based on Android. Why would they bother with this, other than the fact that it's a little murky right now with dealing with Microsoft when it comes to paying patent royalties?
Does anybody know whether Amazon has an existing license agreement with Microsoft for anything? I mean, do they have any cross-licensing in place? I know that Amazon is one of the companies that's hosting Microsoft servers, for example, so they must have something. You know, obviously there's a corporate relationship.
Yeah, they have the one royalty agreement they already have with Amazon is around Linux, actually. Not specifically around Android, but they signed a Linux royalty patent agreement like a year or two ago. They were one of the first ones to do it. So yeah, they have some kind of cross-patent licensing there.
Yeah.
All right, so that's very similar to the Android licensing then. So it wouldn't. I'm surprised it hasn't happened formally, but it seems like Amazon will need to reach some agreement with Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've worked together in the past before. I think the Linux thing is actually related to the original Kindle, which was, I'm not sure, I guess it was running Linux, but they've worked together in the past, and I don't see why they wouldn't work together in the future. But again, Amazon doing a full-blown Windows phone, I mean, if they wanted to branch out, I guess they could. The Kindle runs on everything, right? So what's the difference to them?
Well, but it's the other stuff. You know, Amazon has a content store with rentable and buyable movies and TV shows and forth. That stuff does not run on Windows Phone. It does run on PCs, and it runs on Macs, I believe, and I know that it runs on Android devices like the Kindle Fire. But it doesn't run on Windows Phone, you know. And at least for the short term, you would think they might want to keep that as sort of a competitive advantage for that platform, perhaps.
A new one on the rumor watch. Actually, I just saw this in the lineup. I missed this. Steve Ballmer going away?
Not Stevie B, 80s rap star or 80s R&B star.
He can't leave.
That's a perpetual rumor, right?
Who's going to make the crazy statements that PR later says, no, that's not what he meant. That's not exactly what he meant. I mean, who would do that without Steve Ballmer?
I put this one in the rumor column because a little interesting tidbit came out last week. You know, it was Microsoft's shareholder meeting last week. And there was an 8K document that came out right after the shareholder meeting that showed shareholder approval of different people who are part of the Microsoft board. And it had Ballmer and all the board members and Gates. And all the board members and Gates had 99% approval ratings from the shareholders. And Ballmer had 92. So, you know, you hear all the time, oh, everyone hates Steve Ballmer. They want him out. He's out of there. The shareholders are sick of him. Well, he's got a 92% approval rating with their shareholders.
But that's down significantly from last year.
It is.
Because actually last year it was 97 or maybe 99%. I don't remember.
Yeah. But, you know, for all the people who say he's imminent, he's like on his way out, he's halfway out the door, I think this kind of tempers that a bit and puts a little more reality spin on it. Yes, but yes, it is down significantly.
Well, it's still
we'll see, you know, we'll see how next year goes, right? I mean, if Windows 8, if next year's shareholders meeting occurs and Windows 8 hasn't shipped, right, we're going to have a slightly different type of meeting next year, aren't we? You know, I'd have to think. I mean, I think that's going to be, you know, he had a very curt comment for somebody. One of the shareholders asked the question, why do we still not have a tablet in the market? And he held up this Samsung thing. He said, what are you talking about? You could buy this today. As if anyone is buying Windows tablets, you know. And it was such a dishonest moment. And I think you can only do that for so long. You know, if another year comes and goes without that in the market, you know, something decent, I think we're going to have some troubles there.
It seems strange that even though his approval rating is down to 92%, that's pretty dang high. I mean, relative to everyone else, it's a little low, but this is still a profitable company. They have lots of winners in the marketplace. How is it that a company that's doing so well, I mean, when it comes to even the Xbox 360 being a hit, Windows Phone actually gaining a little bit of market share, Bing growing in spite of losses, I mean, how is it possible that a guy who's leading all this is still disliked so much, even though the company's doing pretty well?
Well, I mean, part of it is that they don't seem to have done a good job thus far transitioning to this presumed future of computing. You know, obviously they're busy in the middle of a transition toward a lot of cloud computing services. You know, Office 365, Intune, and so forth. But you know, there are companies like Apple and Google and Facebook and Amazon that are getting all of the headlines. You know, that are seemingly more exciting and interesting and new, and you know, they're consumer focused, so they're more in the news, and they sort of have that crossover with entertainment news and so forth. You don't see a lot of, with the exception perhaps of the occasional Halo game, you know, you don't see people lining up for Microsoft products like they did for Windows 95, which now is, you know, like forever ago, right? I mean, we're kind of living on our past laurels here, and I think that's the issue. You know, Windows is a solid product, and it continues to sell and sell and sell, but there's this sense that the computing market is heading in a different direction.
And then there's the stock price, right? I mean, that's the other reason.
Yes,
the stock price has remained stagnant. And, you know, this is why a lot of people, especially on Wall Street, keep saying it's time for him to go. You know, the stock price is stuck where it was 10 years ago. No matter what they do, you know, they can do job cuts, they can do cost cuts, blah, blah, blah.
But they can point to revenues and how these things have gone up, and you know how much money the company makes every year. It is kind of like a giant cash machine. So it's true. I mean, you know, certainly they're not experiencing the explosive growth that Apple's seen over the past decade. From a stock price standpoint, especially, it's not even close.
I don't know, Microsoft always seems like the tortoise and the hare thing. I mean, it slowly figures it out after a while. I mean, you can go out there, you can jump ahead, you can think of short-term stuff. But Microsoft, this is why when I hear about Windows Phone and people say, look, it's going to fail, I think that's crazy, because Microsoft's got enough money to keep trying and keep going, and they have enough business relationships that they can get into the marketplace, because they're not like RIM. I mean, RIM goes out there and they're confusing everybody when they do anything, it seems like, versus Microsoft, where it's like they're not doing exciting enough stuff. It's not ever gone. People don't go, that's crazy. Why would Microsoft do this? Other than why don't they remind
people that, you know, Microsoft does have a way of plodding along, but you know, again, they can sustain it because they generate so much money elsewhere. The question, however, is eventually, at some point, these traditional software markets going to dry up, and you know, they need to have something in place. I feel like they just haven't had a huge new hit in a while. You know, Office 365 is off to a strong start. Obviously, even traditional Office has been going gangbusters for whatever reason. You know, but things like Zune and Windows Phone are you know, or in Bing, you know, are not really in the win column. And I think Windows Phone has a chance. I think Bing has a chance too, actually. But it's, it's too bad. It's hard to create brands that are popular with consumers and that are successful. And I think these are all great examples of that. They're all very good brands for whatever it's worth, and very good products too. But we're in this odd position where I feel like nobody really even knows that anymore.
And the last big hit is probably the Xbox and the Xbox 360. I mean, they were not in that market. I mean, I guess other than PC gaming, but to introduce a consumer electronics device that didn't have a whole lot of Microsoft branding, which I think helped it, by the way. That's the last big hit, and the Xbox is about 10 years old, and the 360 is about, I don't know, 5 or 6 at this point. So, I mean, yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen, oh, wow, an exciting product, instead of these responsive, like, oh, they have a mobile operating system, we need a better mobile operating system. Oh, they have a tablet operating system, we should do, like, it's always responsive instead of
reactive instead of proactive. Yeah, exactly. My neighbor called me the other day. This is just kind of a side story that's semi-related to this. She was having PC issues, and I think it sounded like she was on drugs or something, because I think what she was trying to do was just quickly blurt out everything that she'd experienced with this computer so I would know what the problem was. But it came out as a 5-minute long run-on sentence where she kind of said, well, I got to the blue screen and then I would try to do this, and she just kept talking for 5 minutes straight. And so finally I kept trying to interrupt her, and I finally said, hey, hold on. I said, you know that blue screen you mentioned 5 minutes ago? Was that the blue screen you see when you boot up Windows XP, or was it the blue screen with all the text on it, And she said, oh, it had all this text and numbers and things. And I said, yeah, you have a big problem. And, it was sad to me that just as a consumer, like as a normal person, that she had a fairly in-depth understanding of the troubleshooting things you need to do in Windows XP and the problems that can occur. And it's just, these things are just too complex for most people. This stuff really needs to simplify. And I think that's the nice thing about what Apple's done on the iPad side or the iPhone side or whatever, and Microsoft has done too, for whatever it's worth, on the Windows Phone side, certainly, that it's sort of a peek at where it needs to go. And all you have to do is spend some time with a regular computer to understand why. They're just too complicated.
And this seems like the perfect time to thank one of our sponsors, and that's Go to Assist Express. Being in IT and not using the right tools to get the best results for your clients is like a surgeon not using the best, most reliable medical equipment. How can you expect your clients to work with you? That's why you should take a look at Go to Assist Express by Citrix, the best remote support tool. Now, Go to Assist Express is designed with speed and usability in mind, and with unlimited use, you can support all you want for one flat fee. So if you have that whole blue screen issue, maybe you can figure a way around it. It's the easiest way to view and control another computer remotely. You can see and solve the problem without being there in person, and you can do it fast, and perhaps above all, it enables you to take control of a problem and solve it the way you know best. So you don't have to explain over a phone like, oh yeah, that's where the menu is. You can try Go to Assist Express free for 30 days. Visit gotoassist.com/Windows. That's gotoassist.com/Windows. There we go. So that's remote support. So if, again, blue screens, hopefully you don't have to deal with that.
And for me to fix this computer, it's going to require me lugging it over to our house too. So
onto Microsoft, again, talking at the investment meeting with Steve Ballmer, having this singular approach to how Microsoft's going to continue its business, saying everything's going to be about Windows. I think he also said we are in a Windows era, something about the post-PC thing, saying we are in a Windows era, we will always be in a Windows era, which probably brought his approval rating down a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about his strategy.
Was he banging his shoe on the podium when he said that? Do you remember? It had that kind of a vibe to it, This mentality is going to define the Steve Ballmer era, and it's going to determine whether he is ultimately successful or not, right? He's either going to prove me wrong, because I think that a singular strategy like this is a bit of a mistake, or he's going to make me look like an idiot, which I would be A-okay with, and be proven right that Windows is the beginning, the end, and the the everything. I don't know. I mean, Mary Jo, what do you think about this? Is Microsoft too focused on Windows?
Well, Windows is their brand, right? Like this is where you get into splitting hairs a little bit about, is it Windows? Isn't it really Windows, right? And you know, even like with Windows Phone, right? They're using the word Windows in there, but right now it's, as we've talked about in previous episodes of the show, you know, it's based on Windows Embedded Compact, and is that really Windows or isn't that Windows? And you know, I think they're right to stick with the Windows brand. It's like, what's defined them and what they've been known by. I mean, the part of the Ballmer message that worries me a little is the idea that we're not in a post-PC era more than the Windows focus, because we're in what people are calling a post-PC era, even though, you know, billions of people are still using Windows. And I think Microsoft's insistence on continuing to bang that drum is what's worrying people about their tablet strategy, because you know, they keep saying tablets are just PCs, and you know, I've written a few things about this where I disagree with that. I use my iPad tablet way differently than I use my PC, and I want both, but I think we're kind of like in a PC plus era, and you know, they just don't want to kind of get into that whole mess. And I think that's why people see them as being, you know, out of date, antiquated, sometimes like not staying up with the trends, is because they want to stay with this message that everything is based around the PC, even though that may not be the way people are actually working and using PCs.
I just wonder how burned Microsoft feels, because I mean they've tried the tablet thing. What, it was 2002? They're like, hey, we got this idea, we want to do this. Bill Gates was a big proponent of it. We'll do tablet computing with a pen. It's the desktop with a pen, which is very exciting to certain markets like hospitals and things. It didn't really take off in the consumer. Now, I had a Slate tablet from Fujitsu, so I remember the first go around. And you think that they are just burned, and they're like, I don't feel like going into this space yet. Every time we try to do something crazy, well, it flops. I mean, the tablet PC, the UMPC initiative, I mean, there's a lot of things that they've tried that says maybe we should just stick to what we know, and that's Windows, Windows, Windows.
Oh, I don't know. I agree. It's funny because I think it was Frank Shaw had written a blog post some months ago where he talked about this is a PC plus era, not a post-PC era. And I agree with that, actually. I think the future of computing, or the now of computing, if you will, is, you know, Windows PCs plus these kind of what they call media tablets, which I think is kind of a tough name, but whatever. You know, plus smartphones. And that, you know, this year, I believe that smartphone sales will exceed PC sales for the first time. More and more people are getting online only with phones or tablets, and that's their computing experience. Windows will be a part of this mix for a long time to come. The question is at what percentage? You know, I think that the future is going to be a little more heterogeneous, that Windows is not going to be 90% of the computing experience like they were in the PC market. They're going to be 30 or 40% or something, you know, that they're going to have to share it with these other platforms. That's how it's going to go. And I think that's fine, because the overall market for these computing devices is actually growing so dramatically that Microsoft, even with a smaller percentage of market share, still has a huge chance to grow in this future. So it's really kind of a win-win. But I think the thing that bothers me about this Windows-centric strategy is that Microsoft makes all these other products, and with some exceptions, they don't really do a good job yet of making those things available on other platforms that make sense. So, for example, one of my big arguments is I don't get why Office isn't on iOS yet. It seems like they could make a killing on the iPad in particular, you know, and eventually on Android-based tablets as well. And that would just simply help that brand dramatically. You know, they have these kind of half-hearted things where, you know, there's a version of OneNote of all things, but only for the iPhone, right? Not for the iPad, which is kind of crazy to me. Obviously, the Office web apps work to some degree on Macs, of course, and then I believe also on the iPad, though I've not really tried that recently. So that's kind of a half-hearted thing. You know, Bing is out there and so forth, and they have a couple of niche little apps like PhotoSynth and so forth. But, you know, really there isn't a huge effort there. And I think Microsoft's, if you look back at their history, before it was all about Windows, you know, they started as a company that delivered developer tools, and by that very nature is going to be a small company, but then they moved into application software. And before there was a Windows, that was sort of their core business, you know, throughout the 1980s in particular. And I don't see any reason why they can't have more of a focus in that direction. It doesn't detract from Windows, I don't think, but it's something that could happen on the side. And the Office business, as it is, already makes more money than Windows. It seems like, you know, if you're really concerned about the future success of the company, that's one of those things you would want to pursue. And I'm just surprised they don't do more around that kind of thing.
I bet there's a lot of internal debate around that, though, right? Because
yeah,
I'm sure it's something that's always like, brought up for question. When should we do multi-vendor versions of products, or how long should we try to hold on to it as the crown jewels and the differentiator? Because I think that's what's kept them off the iPad. It's like, you know what, we're not going to give them more momentum for the iPad by putting Office on it, right? And if we do that, then more people will use the iPad, especially for business. But if we can hold on and come out with a Windows 8 tablet that has Office ready for it, that'll give us a leg up over the iPad. So I'm sure it's like this give and take thing. There are probably different parts of Microsoft that want to do it to help that part of the business, but they have to kind of look at it as a big picture and weigh, like, are we gonna disadvantage Windows by putting Office on the iPad?
Yeah.
Or will that be a wash? Like, I'm sure there's like spreadsheets galore going around the company. Like, when's the cutover date? When should we do this?
I'm positive that you're right. I mean, I have emails from people who were talking about a flood of iOS apps that were going to come. This would have been over a year ago now. And you have to think that some of this stuff are these efforts that are undergoing there that other parts of the company are squashing. That these things kind of have their little ups and downs, and they happen or they don't happen. It's just tragic. I mean, they really don't give a chance to something that could have a very popular life. Even OneNote, something like OneNote. People on the iPhone are not going to use OneNote. I mean, because they have Evernote, and because they don't have the other stuff that makes OneNote so wonderful. That it's like this kind of weird little standalone, let's throw this out here and see how it does. But it just feels so unsupported. It's just kind of a weird little one-off. Here's this little corner of Office. We'll throw you a bone and see how it does. And it's just, I really feel like there should be a major effort along those lines.
Why is it that a company like Google can go out there and put out applications for iOS and Android that are obviously competing with themselves effectively? But why would Google be so free to do this while Microsoft is just holding back? I mean, they can make apps. I mean, they have the Mac business unit. They still support the OS X with Office variants. Why? What is the corporate culture issue between these two companies that Google's just like, hey, look, we'll do whatever. We just want you to use our service. And Microsoft saying, no, you can wait or use our own version of it. I mean, what's the difference?
I'd say because Google doesn't make money off of operating systems. It's free, right? So they're not having to say, like, should we have, which are we going to hurt our Android and Chrome OS business if we do this? No, because those are kind of lost leaders for Google, basically.
Yep.
So
it's a legacy thing too. I mean, Microsoft has a rich history of ignoring Apple. So it's like riding a bike. I mean, it's just and I mean that I said that facetiously. There is literally a legacy there, though. I mean, it is about putting your platform first and kind of going a little half-heartedly after the other stuff. Like Mary Jo said, I mean, Google is advantaged to make sure that their search services and stuff pop up on iOS devices because there are a lot of them. I have to think that if Windows Phone was popular at all, we would see Google apps appearing on that platform too. And I wish they were there, for whatever that's worth. But I'd like to see this stuff everywhere. I mean, I would like, Apple doesn't put iWork and iLife on the PC, right? They do that for a reason, even though they would make a killing on that. Because from that company's perspective, it makes more sense for that stuff, which is also sort of a loss leader, to use that as an advantage of their platforms, And that's what Microsoft is doing, obviously, with Office as well. But but the issue here is just that you can already look at Microsoft's financials and see where the money's being made. And I think there's a really good case that the Office guys, if Office was a separate company, if Office wasn't tied to Windows, Office would be on iOS. And I think that's the issue I have. It's such a big business. And it's so important to the future of Microsoft. You're not just losing on the platform side by ignoring iOS. In other words, as iPads become more and more popular, as iPhones become more and more popular, you can put out Windows Phone, you can put out Windows Slate and everything and hope they do well. But as those things are just ramping up, these people need these kind of solutions. And so they're buying little hokey things like Quick Office or whatever the weird little Office suites are, or increasingly they're just going to use Apple stuff, or some web-based solution that happens to work on their platform. And by the time Microsoft ever does get around to releasing Office on iOS, if they ever do, it's going to be too late. Nobody's going to care.
And to be fair, by the way, iWork is pretty awful. That's probably why it's not on Windows, because then everyone would know how bad a spreadsheet of numbers is. It didn't support, the first version didn't support, formulas very well, which was like, what do you mean you can't do the same standard formulas that you already know? So if people did see that on the Windows side, the other 90%, they might realize how awful that is.
That explains the lost opportunity in a different way, too. I mean, you have to think there are a lot of people using those devices who want Office, want the real thing. And people who maybe, at least temporarily, and we've made this argument before, you go into an Apple store and you say, well, I've seen all the iPad commercials. I'm curious about it. Does it do this and that? And yes or no. But then you get, does it have Microsoft Word and Excel? No. Oh, yeah, I can't do that. I still think right now they're in such a great place with Office that it's a selling point. And it's something that would just do well. And I just don't, I have nothing to do with the strategy of Microsoft, but I just look at it from the outside and I think, I just don't get it. This is so core. This is as core to what they do as Windows is, I would say. And it just seems like it needs to be everywhere.
So, Mary Jo, you had a piece up over at ZDNet about Microsoft seeking testers for its next version of Security Essentials. So they're just crowdsourcing stuff. Is everyone excited to sign up, or what's the deal?
Yeah, a lot of people are pretty excited. So this is Microsoft Security Essentials, which is the free anti-malware, antivirus client that they've been putting out. I think this will be version 3 when this comes out. And, a lot of people are pretty excited to try it because it's free. And they're saying it's going to have enhanced performance and a better UI than the current version. They also say it's going to have a quote, new and improved protection engine. So I'm not sure if they're actually changing the engine inside of the product or not. Right now, it's the shared engine with the Forefront security product that they have. That's a paid product. So they just said, come into this website we've got here, sign up, and it should be out. The beta of this should be out by the end of the year, and they're not saying when the final will be out. So mostly I've been hearing from people who are excited and want to try it, want to have their input sent over to Microsoft. Had a couple of haters, MSC haters, who knew that they existed, come out of the woodwork and say, I hate this product. I don't even want to test it. It's so bad. And, they've got all different reasons. I know. Paul and I both like it. Paul and I both like this product.
Let me tell you what you want from antivirus. You want it to be free. You want it to never pop up a message, and you want it to work. I mean, that's it, right? And this product meets those requirements. I mean, what's not to like?
What do they hate?
I can see a fear.
They don't like that they can't. Yeah, they can't set like the granularity for when they get
I love
updates.
that. Why would you want to set granularity?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
Yeah, I could see the fear.
I don't hate it.
I can see the fear of testing out a beta of a Security Essentials package. I mean, like, okay, if it doesn't work right, your system could be screwed, I guess. I mean, I could see that kind of fear for it, but I wouldn't see why people would hate something like this. It's like, okay, well, try it out. It's something that should just be part of Windows, but probably can't be due to all kinds of antitrust concerns.
Actually, it will be in Windows 8.
It's like a separate little thing.
No, but in Windows 8, it won't be. Windows 8, they're actually integrating that capability into the OS.
So will there be an antitrust suit to get that out so then Norton and everybody else?
I hope so. I love antitrust suits.
Don't you love that? You can have the antivirus selector like you have with Internet Explorer or Chrome or Firefox and variants.
You can, in fact, still... right. Hopefully it won't be a menu like that. But yes, if you wanted to install a third-party antivirus suite or whatever, it would, of course, replace the built-in functionality.
Oh, I don't think the EU is going to be kicking around Microsoft about this. Microsoft's already down.
Hey, listen, Mario Monti is busy fixing Italy. They're all set.
They've already got Bill Gates in antitrust court today, in fact, over the Novell case that's still not finished. Maybe they could just extend that case and just make this part of the antitrust case, too.
It's like, while you're here, we want to talk about it.
While you're here.
We know you're not running the company anymore.
We know your time is valuable, so what the heck, you understand.
That is quite possible. It would be actually somewhat of an efficient use, but then again, he's not officially in charge of Microsoft anymore. Calling Steve Ballmer, that could be fun. That would be a great testimony to see.
Stand.
Yeah,
it would be like that "you can't handle the truth" moment in A Few Good Men, because he can't stop. He can't stop, right? He would be awesome on the stand.
He would need to be on tranquilizers to be on the stand, I think, just so he doesn't say anything with I would imagine, the Steve Ballmer passion that he normally has. Could you imagine how angry he would get about just any accusation of antitrust? I think he'd...
I think it's fantastic. I think it should happen. Bust
a blood vessel in his head. It's just not a good thing. But that could be a way to get rid of Steve Ballmer, but that's just crazy.
Wow.
It's early. I'm sorry. My mind
It's
goes
like
to
the legal
places.
version of dropping a house on him.
Something like that. Or dropping an anvil on him, I guess. Let's move on to Windows Phone. The apps. What is their app store called? The Marketplace? Is that what it's called?
Windows Phone Marketplace.
Windows Phone Market. Excuse me. I can't keep these silly names. App Worlds and App Catalogs and App Stores and App Store with no space. Whatever. Anyway, the Windows Phone now has 40,000 applications. This is exciting because that means people are developing. Because I think a lot of the developments actually happened in the past couple of months. But I think like 10,000 just got added. Is everyone excited? Does this mean Windows Phone is going to be the greatest thing ever because it's got 40,000 apps? Look at the laugh in silence. That's good.
Yes, that is what that means. No, I sometimes I wonder if they just don't have the floodgates open on the marketplace. I hope they're not just allowing anything in there. But yeah, clearly the Windows Phone Marketplace has grown very quickly, so I think that's good. But again, there's been a lot of developer milestones here. What we're still looking for is, people actually using the devices, and we still have not seen that. And again, that's too bad because Windows Phone is pretty excellent.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder about that 40,000 number. I mean, the thing is, when you start racking up the numbers when it comes to app stores, it gets harder and harder to find quality applications because they have similar names. You have to worry about the rating systems and things like that. And for the most part, like when I see just general consumers, when they want a phone, they want to know, can I use Facebook? Can I use Twitter? Can I use this and that? And there's like those applications are on every platform at that point. I mean, the variety seems like a good thing. It makes it look like that people want to develop for Windows Phone. But I mean, do you think part of that, I guess the application development has to do with the fact that some of these apps might run on Windows 8 in the future, so they're just working on that faster now?
Well, that's an interesting comment. I was talking to somebody else about this the other day, that there are certain features that are missing in Windows Phone 7. If you sort of accept the theory that Windows 8 will be the basis for some future version of Windows, you could further make the argument that maybe some of the reasons we don't see some base capabilities in this mobile OS is that they're just going to replace it with Windows anyway. And why would you go to the effort and time to create something that's just going to be orphaned? So for example, on-device encryption is a typical example of one of those features that just happens to be missing from the Windows Phone platform, right? But encryption is present in Windows, and when you look at the ways that corporations in particular can manage mobile devices, there's sort of a general set of policies around Exchange ActiveSync, but there are no devices on Earth more manageable than PCs. Those are things that PC administrators understand very, very well. And a Windows 8 phone that had all of that management capability back behind it would be something that businesses would want to embrace, at least in theory, because it's so easy to manage. So anyway, that's kind of off topic from the Windows Phone Marketplace story, but it is kind of an interesting topic in its own right, too.
Mary Jo, do you see any positive, not positive, do you see any optimistic viewpoints for the 40,000 apps?
Yeah, I do, because you know what's kind of astounding to me in this number is, there's 40,000 apps, and they have like 1.5% of the worldwide market share for the phone. So obviously, the developers see something maybe that the average person doesn't see. I mean, that's a pretty big number for a platform that has a pretty small market share.
Well, maybe they're seeing the viability of it.
That says to me, sorry?
Maybe they're seeing the viability of it compared to RIM, WebOS, which was a fun little excursion. What else is out there? Symbian, which is being deprecated. I mean, Windows, I still think Microsoft's going to keep plowing away with Windows Phone. It's going to get market share because they're not going to abandon it. It's not going to be like Windows Mobile. I would hope.
Wow. Wow.
At least he didn't say Ken. He could have gone there.
No, Ken has been done. That joke is dead.
Or Ken.
No, I think that is a good point to bring up again because, I still hear from people saying, well, what if it doesn't take off? Are they going to just abandon it? And is that why, we should be leery of the platform? This is mostly more consumers than developers talking here, although some developers say that too. And I can say with a pretty high degree of probability, they are not going to abandon the platform. They're willing to take a loss on it, and they're willing to pour a lot of resources into it, but they're not going to dump the platform. They know they have to have a mobile operating system offering, and they're not going to just say, okay, forget it, we give up. It's not going to be that.
Yeah, no, this is core to what they do. This is not an MP3 player, right? This is a platform, and it's Windows, and computing is changing, and they need to be in this space. This is exactly what they need to have, something in this space. So, yeah, I don't see them ever giving up on it.
Then I could add weight to Bomber's comment that it's Windows, Windows, Windows for this stuff because they're not. It's basically saying, look, we're not going to go to Android. We're not going to be doing that, even though it makes us money. Doesn't matter. We're going to be going with Windows for the long haul because it's their bread and butter.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the sense that, we tend to break these things down into, applications and operating systems, and we have these terms for these things. But I think of all these things as platforms. They're not just software that runs in kind of a standalone way. People can build applications that run on top of them. That's true of Office as well. And that's what Microsoft does. I mean, I think Microsoft ultimately is a platform's maker, and they're very good at it. And I think that's key to their success, and I think that I just don't see Windows Phone going anywhere regardless. I mean, they could sit here at 1.5% for the next 5 years. I hope not, but I think they would stick it out even if that happened.
Wow, I don't know. If it was at 1.5 after 5 years, I would be shocked.
Well, but how big is the mobile market going to be in 5 years, right? So, I don't think it's going to be 1.5%, but Microsoft could make a lot of money in this market with a single-digit market share.
In 5 years, RIM will be dead, so don't worry about it. They'll completely take that over.
First of all, there's no way that RIM lasts that long, and secondly, yeah.
But Microsoft is willing to shed its Dryad. Is that what it is, Mary Jo? Because I never get the pronunciations just because I'm reading it out loud. And they're going to be going with Hadoop. Could you explain what those nonsense words mean to me, please?
This Dr. Seuss story that you're telling.
Thank you.
Horton hears the who. Yes, there is a Hortonworks element in here too. So Microsoft was building its own competitor to Hadoop, the big data framework, a while ago. I mean, I think it was 2006 when I first heard about Dryad. And Bill Gates actually talked about it to the New York Times, of all places, and said, Google's building this thing called MapReduce, but we're going to build something even more awesome, and it's called Dryad. So they've been building this big data framework for a long time. And they use it internally, actually, as a base for what they do with Bing indexing and a programming language for that called Scope. So, Microsoft's really deeply invested in Dryad, and they've been spending a lot of time and a lot of money to build it out. So the game plan was to also make Dryad available to customers who wanted it. And that was the game plan till about last week. And now we found out last week they're not going to bring Dryad to market, and instead they're putting all their big data eggs in the Hortonworks basket. So Hortonworks is working with Microsoft to do a couple of different Windows implementations of Hadoop. And Microsoft announced that a couple of months ago. And when they announced that, I said to them, so does that mean you guys are dumping Dryad? And they said, no, definitely not. We're still going forward with Dryad. And then they kind of snuck into a blog post somewhere in the middle, hid the lead a little bit. Hey, by the way, we're not coming out with Dryad at all. So, it's, I guess you look at this two ways. You can say it's good news because they're consolidating their big data vision and they're going all in with Hadoop. And so if you're wondering what their strategy is, it's Hadoop. But if you're a .NET developer, you may not be as happy because the way they were positioning Dryad is, this is our big data play for people who are .NET programmers. So yeah, it's interesting to see them kind of get away from that, but also says something to the .NET community, I think, about, hey, our priority is going with an open source standard. And in fact, when Microsoft does come out with the Windows implementation of Hadoop, they're actually going to go back to the Apache community, the implementation, and let them take some of that back to the community. It's like not making the Dryad fans out there happy, but good news in terms of simplifying Microsoft's overall big data strategy, I think. How did I do? Did I make the nonsense words? It
was an admirable job. I'm just kind of curious what Paul thinks about Microsoft being able just to shift. I mean, it's funny, in the enterprise sector, it seems like Microsoft is willing to like draw a line, move ahead, and then say, okay, look, this is what we're going to do. And it's going to annoy some developers, it's going to annoy some of our clients, but we don't care. But when it comes to the consumer side, they're like, we need to please everybody. I mean, could their consumers, I guess their consumer division, be learning a little bit more from their enterprise division?
Yikes. Well, Microsoft is pragmatic when it makes sense to be pragmatic. So it's kind of a tough thing. And I'd also say just I'm several years removed from being a Microsoft developer, but the one thing I remember not so fondly about the developer stuff at Microsoft was that you would wake up and everything could change. You know, that they've had 1,300 different data access APIs over the years, and you really have to stay up on how these things are going to go, and they change, and it's just the way it is. And this particular topic, I haven't, it's so dense. I mean, I haven't really followed it. It's funny to me that there actually is a Horton element to it. But
well, I was doing some research about it. It's actually named after what the developer's child's toy elephant, which was named Hadoop. So that explains the silly name. And Horton,
Dr. Seuss style references.
Yeah, some creative naming there on Hadoop. But I still think that Microsoft could learn a little bit. They can go, look, enterprise says, draw the line. I would love for.
Well, it's tough because Microsoft's been very successful in the enterprise, and I think that the lesson there isn't that one or another part of Microsoft should emulate the other. You know, that the consumer efforts at Microsoft should be like the enterprise or vice versa. It's that each of these things needs to be true to the market. You know, that Microsoft has been successful in the enterprise space because they've risen to the challenge of the needs of that market and done the right thing there. You know, we live in a world now where Windows XP is going to be 14 years old before Microsoft ceases supporting it for businesses. That's crazy. You know, when Windows XP shipped, nobody would have believed that that thing could possibly still be used 14 years later. You know, no Microsoft OS ever lasted even a small portion of that. So I think they've done the right thing for that market. On the consumer side, with exceptions, you know, obviously the Xbox 360 in particular has been a big success. They haven't necessarily risen to the challenge. You know, the Zune started out as a fairly blatant attempt to copy the iPod, and it was late to market. It had a couple of differentiating features and so forth, and it certainly improved over the years. It got excellent, but, you know, consumers kind of see that for what it is, and they're not interested. So, you know, it's a fickle market, and it's something that requires a different approach than the enterprise market.
So let's take this opportunity to thank another sponsor, Ford. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Ford, featuring Sync with My Ford Touch. Sync is the in-car communications, entertainment, and connectivity system that's voice-activated to help you keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. One of the great features of Sync is Sync Services. So here's how this works. Sync Services gives you audible turn-by-turn directions to where you want to go and displays directional arrows on screen, all without having to purchase an aftermarket or integrated navigation system. Sync Services also includes business search of over 40 million businesses, including telephone numbers, business information, and direction. A Send to Sync feature, this is pretty cool, which enables you to use Google Maps or MapQuest from your home or office computer to plan a trip. Then you can save it online to your Sync traffic directions and information systems account. Then use voice commands in your vehicle to get turn-by-turn directions. A free Sync Destinations app, which is available in those app stores, app markets, and everything, which gives you mobile access to manage your Sync traffic directions and information systems account on the go. The ability to pre-save destinations to your account, such as home or office. Plus, you can get traffic updates sent to your mobile phone via text message. It's all designed to help you keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road where they belong. Ford Sync with My Ford Touch is available in the 2012 Ford Focus. You can learn more about this and other technologies Ford is bringing to its vehicles at Ford.com/technology. That's Ford.com/technology. On to what happened to Silverlight.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, let's see. So Microsoft's working on that whole Windows 8 thing, and people are like, "Hey, where's Silverlight? Aren't they working on this thing?" And if you guys are watching this, you're like, "What's Silverlight?" It's that it's kind of like their Flash competitor. And the fact is, Windows 8 doesn't seem to support some Silverlight, so people are freaking out about this. The question is, when is Silverlight 5 coming out, if at all? And if it does, if Microsoft does kill it, will they donate Silverlight to Apache? How altruistic is Microsoft, Paul? Do they normally just give away dead products?
This is actually Mary Jo's story. But
I'm just curious about the history of that.
Does Microsoft typically give away dead products? No. I'm trying to think of an example where
they didn't open source the Kin's operating system?
No, they didn't. I'm curious about that. Yeah. That would have been nice.
Let's see.
No, I don't believe so.
Do they have a lot of? They didn't open source Microsoft Bob either. So I'm trying to figure out what is a Microsoft.
No, but Microsoft. I would say this. Microsoft products that die tend to have actually pretty long lives in some ways. I mean, Microsoft doesn't give up on stuff very easily, and you often see concepts from the past appear again and again and again. You talked earlier about you mentioned the ultra mobile PC, and that is part of a long chain of products that goes back to Media Center and Media Room and eventually to Zune and Windows Media Player. It's part of a whole continuum. So I mean that's how they tend to handle dead products.
So I've been trying to stall because we lost Mary Jo on Skype. And,
I see. Okay. I felt bad. It's like stomping all over her story.
It's completely fine. It makes for a better show instead of us just both quietly sitting here. But I'm just thinking about Silverlight. I mean, it's robust, but the thing is, Microsoft, they seem
first of all, it's not. If Microsoft announced today that Silverlight is dead, it's not dead right now. Silverlight is the basis for Windows Phone right now. We just talked about 40,000 apps. You can talk about Silverlight being dead all you want, but over 50% of those apps, probably upwards of 75% of those apps, were written in Silverlight. So, it's not dead. I mean, this is something that's actively happening right now.
All right, Mary Jo, where is Silverlight 5? Do you have it? Is it somewhere behind on that bookshelf?
Back pocket right
We've been
here.
stalling
here
in your
it
absence.
Yeah, it's coming out before the end of this month for sure. I just rechecked with Microsoft. Oh, am I losing you guys?
No, we're still here.
You guys still hear me? Okay.
We were just shocked that it's coming out this month.
Yeah, it is. It's still going to be out this month. And I think what's going on is Microsoft's kind of doing a scramble right now to figure out what they want to say when they announce that it RTMs. Because I had heard it was supposed to RTM 2 weeks ago, that it was ready. And then Adobe announced they were dropping mobile Flash implementation. And so I think Microsoft was like, whoa, wait, we're going to have to say something when we RTM Silverlight 5. Like, we're going to have to say, this is it. This is the last one. Or we're going to have to say, this isn't the last one. So I think they're kind of scrambling as to what they're going to say messaging-wise. My guess is they may RTM it this week, maybe Wednesday, like at 5 p.m., to try to make sure everyone's gone for Thanksgiving.
It's like this.
That would be awesome.
Sneak out a press release. And what do you think of this idea that Microsoft would donate Silverlight to Apache? Do they normally just give away stuff? I don't think so.
I asked just for the heck of it, though, because, since Adobe announced they're going to donate Flex to the Apache Foundation, I just sent kind of a crazy mail, and I'm like, you guys aren't going to donate Silverlight to Apache, are you? And a very terse answer came back.
Was it sure?
It wasn't it was no, but it wasn't what you think. No, so they're not. But what they really need to do right now is say something. They need to say either, guys, this is it, we're done, or here's, we are done with Silverlight 5. And like Paul said, there's a lot of development that's been done on it, and we're not just going to dead end you guys. Here's what the future strategy is. But they need to say something at this point. And so far,
they should have a developer show in the spring, maybe, to announce their strategy around such a thing.
You would think so, but I've been asking around about that developer show known as Microsoft Mix, and I keep hearing from my contacts there isn't going to be one this coming year.
Could be because they're trying economic times or they don't want to waste their money. But then again, I mean, how could Microsoft possibly go ahead and have a press release or maybe a blog, or how could they communicate such an idea across when they have the internet? They could just explain and be clear.
How could they?
I have no idea.
I know, blog post perhaps, like something.
The Building
simple.
Silverlight 5 blog, which
They're going to send out certified mail to all registered developers that will announce their intent.
they could just put it in the system tray, for Windows, like just as part of the updates, and
Click here to find out what we did to Silverlight.
Exactly, Silverlight is fine. I mean, there's a way they can communicate. I don't know. I'm being nuts. Let's go to listener question and answer. This is where we open it up to the chat room to ask these folks questions. Don't ask me anything. I won't answer. That's a joke. So let's see. The announcement. Let's see. We are going to stall because there's a delay. There's always a delay when I say stuff on this live thing. What kind of questions would you like to hear, Paul?
Wow.
Would you like to hear about more Hadoop questions? Would you would you like to hear about Windows Phone 7? Do you guys? Oh, here's a good question. Do you have the Htc Titan yet?
No, actually, I went yesterday, and it's not. I believe they are not selling it yet. It was supposed to go on sale yesterday. I've been told by two people now that AT&T has told them, although they did not tell me this, that the HTC Titan will be part of Friday's 1 cent sale. On Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, AT&T is going to sell a bunch of phones, including a bunch of Windows phones, for 1 penny.
It's true,
and
Paul.
it is true. So
there's a press release out. Yep.
Oh, they have it out now. Okay, so for some reason, it was not available in stores yesterday, at least for me and for a couple of people who emailed me this morning. And so now we know it's a fact. It will be available on Friday as part of that 1 cent sale. So, if you want it, I mean, why not wait till Friday? You're going to you'll save $200.
Yeah, I think it's all the Windows phones on AT&T are going to be a cent on Friday.
Is that, you think that's going to help a lot? I mean, I think Amazon's also doing a deal with I think it's Verizon phones will be like a penny. So that you got a ton of Android phones there. Well, not all Verizon phones.
I have a question for everybody. This is not necessarily related to Windows, but you reminded me of it with this Black Friday thing. If Black Friday is such a huge success story, right? And given that the economy is obviously in the dumper, why isn't every day Black Friday? Like, why? In other words, why not just have these sales every day, all the time? And on that note, why not just sell Windows Phone for a penny every day? Would this, you know what I mean? Like, at what point is it too much? I mean, is 1 day okay? And if
but then you're going to diminish the premium nature of Windows Phone. It's going to seem like it's some janky OS if it's only for a penny. That's crazy.
Yeah,
like a free iPhone, which does exist. That's crazy. I don't know why they're not just giving away these phones.
But they sell iPhones. So, in other words, the premium nature of Windows Phone may in fact be an illusion. So why not just sell it? Like, why not just make these things sell? You're making the money on the 2-year contract anyway. I don't understand what the $199 thing's all about. They sell a new phone. There's a Samsung Focus Flash that costs $50.
Yeah, I guess it's just to make you think you're getting a deal, isn't it? Like if it was 1 penny every day, you wouldn't think you were getting a deal. You'd want it for $0.
Okay.
It's an anchor price, the $199. You're like, oh,
Black Friday, they could pay you to take it.
I guess you could get a rebate, an extra rebate. Question from Indiana in the chat room. When is the next Xbox coming out? Not the 360. That's already out. And will it support Blu-ray?
I don't know the answer to either one of those. The sources I have are saying 2013.
That's pretty soon. I've heard that it's going to...
Seems to make sense.
I heard that Microsoft is going to show a demo of it at was it E3 next year?
Yeah, E3 would be... So if Christmas 2013 is the date, E3 next year would be the logical launch point. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Xbox has been getting a little long in the tooth. I mean, the current generation game systems are 5 or 6 years old.
Blu-ray, by the way, would be great. I mean, one thing I've noticed on, I don't remember which game it was. I think Modern Warfare 3 ships on 2 discs. And there's a game I got recently, I want to say had 3 discs.
Isn't that Battlefield 3 that had like 3 DVDs?
Maybe it's Battlefield 3, yeah. And that's an issue with the Xbox because it only has a DVD drive. You know, so even though they've made some format changes and they allow a little more storage than is typically the case, we're running into that limitation. That is a huge limitation.
Any news on the next version of Office? I wasn't even aware that there's...
Yeah, Office 15, couldn't Office 15. You know, the one bit I've heard about it is it's going to be out next year. You know, there was some back and forth as to was it going to be a 2013 or a 2012 thing. I hear it is going to be called Office 2012. And so far we don't even have any public builds of it, although I know they've been signing up some people privately for like a tech preview, just like a very select group of partners and customers. So it's chugging along. I'm betting we're going to see a public beta of that sometime in the first half of next year, but very little has leaked on that, which is kind of surprising.
A very related question. What kind of coffee does Paul drink?
So I drink espresso, and it's from Italy, and I buy it locally at an Italian store. It's hard to find, but actually you can get it online. It's called Guglielmo, and I believe I actually linked to it on my What I Use page on the site.
So there you go. So whoever said Dunkin' Donuts in the chat room was incorrect. So let's see, another question for Paul. Are you enjoying Modern Warfare 3?
I am enjoying it a little too much. In fact, I'm actually concerned I have an addictive problem. And so we probably shouldn't talk about that too much. But yeah, it's good. It's very good.
We're going to have an intervention for Paul.
Yeah, you can tell a video game's a problem when you start to dream about it. You know, that the dreams take place in the locations that are in the multiplayer part of the game.
Are you seeing your life with a little map on the bottom right all the time? And a little health meter going on right now?
I actually have contacts that add that anyway, but yes.
That's good. That is truly an addiction. These are way nuts. Mary Jo, what's your favorite Pandora channel?
I don't really care about Pandora, sorry.
Oh, look at that. She says, none of them. There you go, effectively.
Pandora just sent out an email with their holiday channels, right? They have the Christmas stuff and whatever.
So then you never have to buy them. That's the key there, because how often do you want to listen to that?
But that's the point of radio anyway, isn't it? I mean, so it's basically a paid radio service.
Radio? I don't know this radio thing. Is that like internet audio streaming?
Yes, it's except using analog technologies.
Wow, that's crazy talk.
I know. It's World War II era.
Here's a good one. Why does Microsoft need Silverlight if they have HTML5? Well, they don't have HTML5, but why do they need Silverlight still?
Well,
it was like, why do we need Adobe Flash? The same reason. You know, it answered it solved a problem that we had. You know, and they in the case of Silverlight, they evolved it in a certain way. Silverlight, like I said, you know, they use it as the platform for Windows Phone. Has nothing to do with HTML5. I mean, it is essentially it's a way to create native apps on Windows Phone. So it's a different way of doing things. I mean, on the web, I would say we don't need Silverlight anymore at all, much less so than we need Flash.
Somebody suggested DRM.
When you say Silverlight, it's such a big term now, right? It's like it's the browser plugin, but it's also the development environment for the phone, and it's also a line of business development platform and a streaming media platform, right? So it's all of these things. It
tastes damn good too, and it can clean your car.
And it's less filling, I hear.
Well, I don't remember the year, but one of the years, it was NBC, I think, did the Olympics site, because at the time, Silverlight was seen as a media streaming platform, and it could do HD, which was something that Flash couldn't do reliably or not at all. I don't remember at the time. And that was one of its sort of stages of development. It's so far beyond that now. It's hard to even say what Silverlight is because, like she said, it's all over the map.
I think the NBC still uses Silverlight for their Sunday night streaming. If you want to watch football on their website, I don't know if they still do it with the Olympics or not. And of course, Netflix is the biggest.
Wasn't there one year that Major League Baseball used it and then they switched back to Flash or switched to something else, or it was something like that?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
I have no idea about the baseball stuff other than you go to MLB.tv and then you install whatever they tell you to because that's what you have to do.
Actually, first you set up a lot of money. And then...
yes, first you have to make sure you do that.
Oh, we lost Mary Jo.
We lost Mary Jo, or she's gone
Mary
invisible.
Jo, I have a question. Why do you hate Skype so much?
She doesn't hate Skype. It's maybe because Microsoft now owns Skype, that she has such vital, important information, she's being stopped.
There's someone at the Skype headquarters with their hand on a red button.
Yes.
And anytime we get a little too close to something uncomfortable.
Exactly. I mean,
they start screwing with the bandwidth.
Because, I mean, you know what? Maybe because we were talking about Major League Baseball without express written consent, we somehow...
It's a touchy topic. It's a touchy topic.
I know. It's a real issue.
We don't really have that licensee anymore.
Let's move on to the picks, because we've done a lot of stalling on this episode, so if you're looking for quality content...
if you're wondering what all the dead air was, Mary Jo keeps hanging up on us. I don't know.
We've offended her.
I don't know what happened
My
there.
Skype connection since yesterday has not been doing very well.
So we got our picks. We got a tip of the week. Back up your music collection to the cloud. Very popular thing these days on a lot of services out there. Who's tip?
Yeah, these are mine. So the first two, I have a tip and a pick, and they're very, very related in many ways. I mean, the tip is that obviously there are these services out there that allow you to back up your music collection to the cloud. The two big ones are Google Music, which just came out of beta, and Amazon's Cloud Player, which is part of their cloud drive, which has been around. Both of these have been around in some form most of the year. The tip is that you should simply back up your collection to both of these things, because unless you exceed their storage limits, which are pretty decent in both cases. I think actually I wrote it down so I don't have to just think. I can say that Google Music provides storage for free for up to 20,000 songs, and Amazon provides less for free. It works at the 5 gigabytes of storage, which actually for me is not enough for my entire collection. But you can pay them $20 per year for up to 20 gigabytes of storage. And really what this does is it just gives you a kind of an off-site storage-free music collection, and then the ability to stream it from compatible devices, which include your PC, of course, but also in both cases, Android-based devices, iOS, I believe, in both cases, and maybe that's probably it.
And the way you put it, you said back up your music. I mean, because the thing is, you can always roll your own cloud by using any number of servers on your actual home computer. You want to use this as backup?
Yeah, I see it as off-site backup, right? Because if you have a disaster at home with a hard drive, this is a way just to get it out of the house. If your house burns down, this is essentially off-site storage in many ways. So, I mean, I actually backed up my collection to both of these services, for example. The new player, and this is kind of not player like software player, but the new player in this market, of course, is Apple. And they just released iCloud fairly recently, and then more recently, the iTunes Match component of it. And iTunes Match is not a free service. It's paid. It's $25 per year. But it's really interesting because instead of providing you with a way to upload your entire collection to the cloud, what it does is examine your collection, and then it provides you with those songs in the cloud, but their versions of them, right, which are in great quality 256K AAC. They have a library, I want to say it's about 19 million songs up in iTunes, so of course, the biggest music store in the market. And then for the songs that they don't have, those get uploaded to the cloud. And then again, you gain the ability to play them, play them. They don't actually stream them. They stream as they download, but you download them to devices and play them that way. Again, it's off-site backup in many ways, but you can also download them again. So this is kind of an interesting way for people who have dicey collections, by which I mean collections of varying quality, because maybe you ripped them at different times and some of them are terrible and some are not. Or maybe you took advantage of Napster or other music sharing services and you want to go legit. It's not easy, but you can, in fact, download the entire collection, this entire beautiful 256K AAC version of your library to a second PC. It's going to take a while, and it's going to be a fairly manual process, but you can do it. It's something you should look into. So I'm definitely going to review iCloud and iTunes Match as part of that. I don't know that I'll be able to compare all these things in writing because it's such a complex topic.
Sounds like a video.
Yeah, in many ways, it's the type of thing that you might base your decision on what else you're using. People who are heavy users of Google services and use Android devices maybe want to go with Google. People who are heavy users of the Amazon stuff like I am might want to go that route. And of course, a lot of people just use the iOS stuff and iTunes and all that, and that's kind of the obvious choice. So in some ways, the pedantic breakdown of, which does what thing better almost doesn't make sense. I think a lot of people will simply go with the one of the three that is, that they lean toward just because of whatever else they're doing. So they're all decent in their own way.
Now, before we get to Mary Jo's Enterprise Pick of the Week, let's thank our last sponsor, which is Netflix. Last but not least. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Netflix, which, of course, if you're watching the show, you know about Netflix, but let's talk about it anyway. Netflix streams thousands of TV episodes and movies directly to you instantly, which means you save time, money, and hassle. And there are several easy ways, this should say hundreds of easy ways, to instantly access streaming movies and TV shows with Netflix. You can watch Netflix movies and TV shows on your Mac or PC or iPad. Or you could, that iPad app is actually pretty neat. They're going to redesign that soon. You can watch on your iPhone, some Android phones, tablets like crazy. There's a lot of them out there. If you have a gaming console, 360, a PS3, a Nintendo Wii, you can watch Netflix on your TV. If you're not a gamer, there's the Roku box. There's Apple TV. There's pretty much any set-top box you can think of. They're inexpensive and easy to use. With Netflix, you can watch movies and TV shows instantly using any of these devices, and you can begin watching a movie or show on one device and then finish on a different one. So if you want to watch at home and then you want to go on the go, you can do that with your phone. Whichever ways you choose to access Netflix, you can watch as many movies and TV shows as you want. There's not like an hourly limit, anytime you want, and you can cancel anytime. Try Netflix today for 30 days free. Go to netflix.com/twit. Be sure to use this URL when you sign up for your free 30-day trial, netflix.com/twit. We thank Netflix for their support of TWiT, and we hope you enjoy watching Instantly with Netflix. They had a really cool documentary on, let's see, Star Trek captains I saw, and the New York Times. Good stuff, really good stuff. If you like that.
Hey, did you see the Netflix news today?
What's the
they are bringing Arrested Development back.
Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't today. That was days ago. That was Friday, 11.
I just read it today. Oh, sorry.
That's why I was like, "There's a new one." Yeah, but they have the.
I get the paper I get is delivered to my house.
A newspaper. But Netflix is getting a season of Arrested Development exclusively.
Yes.
They are bringing it back, and we'll be talking about that probably on Tech News today, later today, and plug for my show. Let's talk about Mary Jo's Enterprise Pick of the Week.
Yes. So my Enterprise Microsoft Deployment Toolkit 2012. MDT 2012 to all you fans out there. And beta 2 of it just became available recently. And so what this is a tool for people who have to do massive deployments of Windows, like Windows 7, Windows Embedded, Point of Sale, Windows XP, Windows Server 2008, 2003. It's a tool to basically help you deploy Windows across your company. And the new version that they're beta testing now, the 2012 version, is potentially interesting to people who are using System Center because there are hooks into the 2012 release between MDT and System Center Configuration Manager 2012. So, it's going to give you all these features, faster, better. They're optimizing for performance, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're a System Center user, you probably are going to want to check out this new beta to see how it works with the coming System Center 2012 product.
I wonder if it had a cool code name before it was the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, which is very utilitarian.
I wonder.
But what's our code name pick of the week?
The code name pick of the week is a cool code name. It was Project Sydney, as in Sydney, Australia, I assume. And the actual name of this product is Windows Azure Connect. Not Connect, not K-I-N-E-C-T, but C-O-N-N-E-C-T. It has nothing to do with gaming, nothing to do with gestures. But it is still pretty cool. It's a way for customers to more easily share between their on-premises servers and their cloud servers. So there's a secure IPsec interface between your virtual machines on the network and the cloud. And the reason I made that the codename pick of the week this week is Microsoft has finally opened up the test version of Azure Connect. It was in a private I think it was invitation only test up to this point, but on November 22nd, no, sorry, that's tomorrow. Last week, they actually opened up the CTP. So it's an open CTP. You can go to Microsoft Connect and register and start testing it yourself. And I think this is going to be really interesting because Microsoft's been hinting lately that they're looking at ways to make it easier for customers to do hybrid implementations, cloud and on-prem. And I think this Windows Azure Connect is going to be a key piece of that.
I'm just thinking of their other code names. Like they had Project Pink, they had Project Natal, Project Sydney. I don't think Chicago was called Project Chicago, was it? Or was it just Chicago?
No. Only some things are called Project. I don't know why.
Maybe it's a special designation. Looks like we've reached it's at the end of Windows Weekly today, isn't it? This is it.
All things must end.
It's so hard to say goodbye. I don't even know how to do it properly. What do we do now, Paul?
Well, Mary Jo usually hangs up on us, and then
I was going to say maybe Skype will do it for me as I do
the show for us.
So now we're not going to be on for like a week and a half. It's going to seem like a vacation.
But there's going to be a lot of Microsoft news. Like we said, Wednesday at 5 o'clock, you'll see that press release on Silverlight. We don't know. We're kidding. We're kidding.
Wait for it.
But yeah, I'm sure there's going to be plenty more rumors about Redmond popping up and all kinds of fun stuff. This was fun. Thanks for having me on today, because this was a lot of fun for me, learning about Hadoop. It's always fun to learn about Hadoop because it'll go right in, it'll stick around for about 30 minutes, and it'll pop out. Sorry.
I don't. Mary Jo might not have heard, but I tried to plumb my internal Mary Jo Foley by having a little segment about Windows Embedded last week.
Oh my! How did it go?
Yeah. It went poorly. It was. I could barely get through it, but I tried. I did my best.
Be like me talking about Gears of War, one of those things, Man of War.
So awesome. Someday. Someday.
Okay, so I think everyone knows where Paul is. He's over at SuperSite, right? Are you still there? Did you fire yourself yet?
No, I keep trying to.
Okay, just checking. And Mary Jo Foley at allaboutmicrosoft.com, blogger extraordinaire at ZDNet. And next week, Leo will be back, probably in this seat, but like on Thursday. Is it next week? I don't know. Wait a minute.
Actually, I have a closing question, if I could.
Go for it.
A couple of people have asked me this. So as we're recording this now, you're out in the main area of the studio.
Yes.
Whatever that's called.
Roundtable.
And then sometimes, or it seems like recently when we've been doing this with Leo, he's been in the, and this is, I think, the part that people don't understand. It's the recreation of his old office from the cottage, but it's actually, you can see it from where you are. Mm-hmm. It's in the same building.
That's correct.
So the first thing I just wanted to tell people was that we're not actually going back to the old cottage to record when we do it with Leo. We're actually in this recreation of it that's over there. Yeah. But the question is, why does it occur sometimes out there and sometimes in the other room? Do you know? The
reasoning for that is that's Leo's office. So Leo sits in there, and when he's not in, get out here. So that's pretty much it. That's the big difference. And usually if there's a lot more guests when it comes to people on Skype or in person, the round table is much more fitting for that because the camera's set up in the, we actually sometimes call it the cottage because it is a recreation of the cottage over there. The reason why, that's why. And there you go. So if you wanted to know that, now you got some inside information on TWiT. So I guess I don't even know the sign off. Thanks for watching.
It is something very much like that.
Okay, good. I like that. Something very much like thanks for watching.
or listening.
Well, no. I mean, I'm assuming I'm just watching, even the audio waveform. So there you go.
You have to do the secret Microsoft symbol sign off. Control-Alt-Delete.
Oh, wait. I was trying to get an M in there. Okay, so we need to...
It's not a gang sign. It's like a... it's more of a keyboard shortcut. Yeah.
Okay, so there's going to be a very awkward recorded ending there.